good evening, fellow freedom lovers and patriots, well, from all over the world. Welcome to tonight's show, Community with Minuteman on Freedom Reigns. Folks, tonight we're going to touch on a few different topics. Some of it, well, it's going to be community related, but we're also going to kind of poke fun at a little bit of the fear porn out there. We've got a couple guests coming on tonight that's going to introduce themselves, and we're going to let you hear from them. One of them is a commander from the Ohio Militia, and when he gets ready to come in, well, we'll bring him in. And another man, we're going to call him Firehawk. He's from Florida, and Firehawk is part of CCOM. And he is very knowledgeable about law. I believe Doc and him really get along. But anyway, do we have Firehawk available?
I am here.
All right. Well, pleasure to have you on board with us tonight, brother.
My pleasure, Minuteman. Thanks for having me. Look forward to it.
Oh, yeah. Well, if you would, take a few minutes and introduce yourself there. I believe Drake's going to be on with us here soon. Yeah, if he ain't already here. But anyway, go ahead and, all right. Good to hear Brother Drake. But go ahead there, Firehawk, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do and things like that in your neck of the woods in the United States.
I hear you. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Firehawk. That's my call sign, and I'm based near Tampa, Florida. I'm retired, Vietnam veteran and so forth, and have been involved in various and sundry militia efforts since the early 90s. At that point, it was in Oregon, which is where I'm originally from. So when this whole thing started in this time about 2008, 2007, the signs were there, many of the signs were there that this was going to be an interesting time. And so I began to get things cranked up again, pull out some of the old manuals, and there's a lot of information that I've stuffed away over the years. And interestingly, in the last 18 months, it's gotten, the situation has gotten much more interesting and has taken some turns that I certainly couldn't predict. I don't know that anybody could have unless they were on the other side, so to speak. I'm talking specifically about things that the last time we saw them was the beginning of World War II with internment camps and so forth. And I decided aside from just being a member of a militia here, a member of CCOM and a local group, I decided I actually had to get out and start screaming my head off, because one day, one evening, I got a hold of the U.S. Army Field Manual, I think it's 3-9.4, I think, or something like that. I can't remember exactly. And I read it. Scared the hell out of me. Just flat scared me to death. Because the last time, particularly when they use terms like psychological operations and relocation and internment and that sort of thing, and the last time they did that, like I said, was the beginning of World War II. But we were playing copycat from Mr. Hitler in Germany, and but the psychological operations, there's an entire section in that field manual, and it deals with psychological operations literally for turning the minds around of the internees. I mean, that's not exactly the words, but essentially making them look at the positive side of being interred so that they'd be cooperative and look more favorable on what the government was doing and so forth. I'm going, this is brainwashing. And that's when it finally hit me that this has gone way, way, way farther than it's ever gone before. So, and if they weren't spending so much money doing it,
I said, yes, it has.
Yeah, and like I said, I was going to say that if you want proof, it's all around us. But all you have to do is look at how much money they're spending. Looking at recruiting videos for military personnel, for personnel to man these camps. They used to call them FEMA camps. I suppose they still do. And way back in the 90s, those were kind of a joke, because you'd look at some FEMA camp and discover, yeah, it's just an abandoned warehouse. Not anymore, because Halliburton and one of their subsidiaries spent millions of dollars across the country refurbishing these things, building brand new ones, and now, of course, you've got what we didn't have back in the 90s, and that is the internet and communication, and just way, way, way too much documentation and essentially verifying what's actually out there. Way too much to be ignored. So,
well, if you remember, when we first started to discover the so-called internment camps, they tried to make it out like it was a big conspiracy.
Mm-hmm.
And lo and behold, as time progressed, we find out that, no, we were right dead on track what their intentions were and everything else. Here again, we're not going to play into the fear porn, because I believe me and Drake can put the backspin on this. And just how hard it would just how hard it's going to be to get people in there, folks. It's not going to be that easy. Matter of fact, if well, we have any of them listening tonight, know this: they need to be careful, because they, the ones that built them, could end up in the internment camps.
Yep. I think once the reality hits, then I think initially they may put people like your occupiers and so forth, you know, the ones that are rioting in the streets and so forth. You know, who knows who. But I think once people see and understand that, yes, indeed, they're actually holding these people without attorneys, without going in front of a judge, without it pleading, that they're throwing habeas corpus right out the window. Once the general population understands that these things are real and that people are being detained indefinitely or whatever, it will become, like you said, much more difficult. There will be, I think they will meet with a lot of resistance, just based, unfortunately, in fear. So, that's history.
Drake, is there anything you want to throw in on this, my friend?
Well, I kind of like the idea of having them camps up, operating and ready to go, because we're going to have a lot of business. I mean,
go ahead and elaborate, my brother.
What? Elaborate? Well, what are you going to do with all them politicians? So many ocean fish will throw them back because they be polluting the water. So, it'd be a waste of ammunition to shoot them all. But basically, it's easier to put somebody on hold, on ice or whatever, figure out exactly where they fit into whatever was going on and what they did and did not do, and go from there. That way, at least you give them the fairness that nobody's given us, and we don't reduce ourselves to their level. So that's the way I'm looking at it. Now, I ain't saying that some of them ain't going to get their neck stressed or other deadly things happening to them, but that pretty much sums up the way I feel about it.
Yeah, I share your thoughts exactly on that. Look, a lot of the reason they build these camps is to induce fear. It's like, behave yourself, little slave, or, we're going to eventually put you inside these things here. And that's what people really need to wrap their minds around, is that alone, in my opinion. Look, folks, we outnumber them severely, very severely. I know a lot of people seem to think that the American populace is just going to cower down, roll over, and take what's coming. And folks, it never works like that. That's why you see all kinds of civil disruptions across the world when certain tyrannies start to do the things we're talking about here. People end up getting angry, and their anger stirs their bravery to stand up, knowing that, well, you're not going to put me in that camp. I know that they ain't going to just come by and tell me that, look, we're taking you to an internment camp, and, well, there's not going to be some kind of a dispute. How far that dispute goes, well, would entail on how they presented themselves. Anyway, Firehawk, what you think of that?
Well, I think you're exactly right. I think the form of resistance to that, whether it's based in fear or a legal approach, if you will, a court, going into court with things and so forth. I think it's going to depend on, who's up for going in next. I think at the basic level, you're talking about people that may or may not be particularly sophisticated, not so much in terms of their bravery or their desires to be free. I mean, that's inherent in all men. But in terms of history, when you talk about internment and relocation camps, then that's literally in the title of this field manual, this Army field manual. And the first thing that hit me was what I learned years and years ago in grade school, was that this is where the Japanese on the West Coast and the Germans from the northern Midwest, this is where they were sent, even though they were American citizens. And even back then, and this is in the mid and late 50s, even back then, there was an outrage that how could the government do this? This was not the American way, and yet we know for a fact that this did happen to tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people in this country, and they got away with it. Well,
yeah, they always have
if anybody.
Go ahead.
I was going to say anybody that has, that is old enough to, or has gone into the history of this and understands what this is. There's no way that anybody is going to let themselves just casually be taken away for an indefinite period of time. You look at the people in Guantanamo. On the surface of things, we think, they bloody well deserve it, because these were and in fact are combatants from the Middle East. And yet I read an article just this morning about a man who was held there for, I don't know, what was 7 years or something like that. And in fact, they discovered long ago that he was innocent of the charges, that he had no business being there, he was not a terrorist, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and they finally let him go. There was no way that he could facilitate that directly. He didn't have an attorney initially and so forth. There was no trial. He was just stuck in there like a prison camp. Talk about prison camps, the first thing you think of, Germany. Right. Flyers from America and Britain and so forth, and the prison camps and so forth, and you say, wait a minute, this is, they are there, and this is how our law reads, that they are there until, quote, the conflict is over. Hostilities are ended. Really? And when might that be? No, yeah. It's a scary, scary thought, and I think the average person out there, the average citizen out there, at a very gut level, understands that this is inherently wrong, and they're not going to stand for it. And I think, Minuteman, I think you're absolutely right, dead on, that we outnumber them 1,000 to 1. I mean, if they want to get, they want to get 20,000, 50,000 people and so forth to work for them, or whatever. That's fine. You know, we've got 5 million, 50 million. Good luck to them.
Yep, that's how we view it. And I want to make a note on this. Look, folks, in history, they always had some kind of a mantra going on, you know, of why this was to be accepted by people. And what we need to get out there is, you know what, there isn't going to be a mantra this time. It's not going to be accepted. And the good news is that a lot of people are waking up to these so-called internment camps. I mean, sheesh, I'm finding out that most people on the streets know about them, know something about them, have already heard about them. You know, so it's not something like we've got a lot of Americans going, no way, not here in America. Well, where they might have a misconception that we might need to clear up is the fact that when they start picking certain groups to put into these camps,
yeah.
And the reason why they'll do that, this will be the reason why they do that, is they know they're going to install some more fear in you by using a handful of people to put in these camps.
There's another aspect to this.
For it. Go ahead, Drake.
They got a group that's going around now. They're not well funded, and there ain't very many people involved. But what they're doing is they're going in and reviewing cases, and these are the people that are adjudicated in one form or another, maintaining their innocence. Now, these people do have access, at least to communication, and they're overturning these cases. The prosecutor lied about evidence, or et cetera, whatever the reason might be, and they're turning them loose. Now, I would suggest that group, because it's a private group, be given sufficient funding to make sure that they do two things. That the evidentiary procedure is followed, or the prosecutor does time. That would be one part of it. And the second part of it would be to review any and all cases that have a time span in terms of a sentence of over, give it 2 to 5 years or something. And that if a person goes for 2 to 5 and can prove that they were not adjudicated correctly, the prosecutor is held, again, liable. This will help straighten things up tremendously. My mother started that what was it called? Ex-con was the name of it. And this is where it don't matter what you did within certain limits, you could get a job, stuff like that. Nobody vouched for anybody. It was just an opportunity to change your life, and that worked real well. This group, from what I understand, are reviewing every level of adjudication, not just civil and criminal, but also federal. So I think that would be a real good way to prevent the incommunicado problem. In other words, incommunicado except for these people. That might work, because then you do get attorneys, you do get some help. And if they had funding, they could go look without too much trouble. So that might be an alternative to both be able to keep the law in one way and yet amend it in another, if you follow what I'm saying.
Yeah, sure can.
Yeah. I still don't like the idea, but...
Yeah, I love it. You know, look, folks, prosecutors usually know that, well, they're being overzealous about a case. And let's face it, nowadays in the United States, being a prosecutor ain't about right or wrong. It's about, well, how many cases can I win so I can advance to the next level of judge, or being the state attorney, or what have you. There's always an agenda at foot. So that's a real good idea, because I believe with guidelines as such that are so heavy, and that's pretty heavy, you know, if prosecutors caught not doing what they're supposed to do and sticking to the principles of justice itself and concentrating on a conviction because they just want a feather in their cap, well, you know, they can go to prison for that. And that sounds pretty just to me.
Well, I worked for attorneys as a private investigator for years, and I learned very quickly that the name of the game, and they get this right from law school. It is taught in law school this way. It's the whole approach. And the idea, the name of the game is simply, you nailed it, is to win. That is
right.
The objective, is to win. And so I found out, oh gosh, probably 2 or 3 months ago. And when I learned about this, it wasn't a surprise to me. I had not known this before. But most law schools do not teach the U.S. Constitution. What they teach are the Supreme Court rulings interpreting the Constitution. Well, I'm sorry, folks, but there's a real big, huge difference there. And so you've got a bunch of attorneys, most attorneys, that are not particularly familiar with the Constitution as it is written. They didn't study it in law school. And when I say familiar with it, it's one thing to read it. It's another thing to study it and go back to the Federalist Papers and so forth and say, this is what they meant line by line. The only, a constitutional attorney does that. And, Andrew Napolitano being one, and the Oath Keeper founder, oh gosh, his name escapes me. And, he's a constitutional attorney.
Oh,
Pardon?
Stuart Rhodes.
Oh, yeah, Stuart Rhodes.
Stuart Rhodes.
And
he's got a very good group out there. I love the Oath Keepers. Always stood by them and done my best to support them. And God bless them all. We need, and folks, I want to reiterate something. We really like the Oath Keepers organization. We really like to see law enforcement and soldiers. Look, anybody that's out there listening that isn't familiar with the organization, please go join it. But know this, any American citizen that stood up and swore that oath, as long as you're keeping it, you're an oath keeper. That's just the way it goes.
Oh yeah, you don't need the label. That's
no,
for sure.
But we would like to see that organization that Stuart Rhodes built grow. It does have its set purposes, some pretty good ones. They do put out some pretty good news on things, and like I said, I've had a few conversations with Stuart Rhodes over the years, and I think he's got a pretty good thing going on there. Something we all need to get behind and support, and make sure other law enforcement officers know. I know it is growing. It's grown tremendously since I first learned about it, and I just think it's a wonderful thing. I want to make sure everybody understands I'm not against law enforcement at all. I'm pro-law enforcement.
Absolutely.
Just don't like it. Yeah, we just don't like it when it goes awry. Look, some of these sheriffs are put in a bad bind because of what's going on.
Well,
and, it's usually a matter of education. I know a lot of people come to me and say, well, my sheriff, he doesn't like this, he doesn't like that. And I'm like, well, how many times have you talked to him? Well, I haven't. I've just read stuff in the newspaper. Well, folks, you can't go by what's in the newspaper. Let's face it, the newspaper loves to just put out what they want to put out, how they interpreted a story. Sometimes it's best to go in and talk to a sheriff. You'll find out that a lot of sheriffs out there sometimes don't know.
Well, not only that, they don't know, or even if they do, most sheriff's positions are political. In fact, all of them, as far as I know, they're most often the only elected law enforcement official in a county, and many of them, I wouldn't say many of them, but a lot of them don't know, or they don't know the value of of hooking up with a local militia, supporting them, even sponsoring them. And this is one of the things that you know, in terms of what we're talking about tonight, and in terms of militia and the community, this is one of the things that we need to keep in mind, is that if we can, the sheriff, if you can get a sheriff on your side in your county, you have got an inroad to the other people you need to get an inroad to in the county.
Sure do. I've actually got that going for me in my county. I've got a tremendously good sheriff, very constitutionally educated, does not like some of the things that's going on at all. Now, by some of the Texas standards of our Texas state constitution, he's kind of bound in some arenas, but he's creative and knows how to, let's say, maneuver on them areas, and does a real fine job with protecting his citizenry. Our deputies are held to a standard here. They're not to be arbitrary to the people. Our sheriff wants people to understand they can trust our deputies. And if we get a deputy in here that, and we've had a couple come in that had that arrogant stance about them, go to shake their hand or something, they look at you through them dark sunglasses like, who are you to be coming and shaking my hand, things like that. And, well, they just never lasted long around here. Our sheriff would get rid of them. Another thing our sheriff does is if the state trooper pulls somebody over in town, that's in the town limits, whether it be Barksdale or Rock Springs or whatever little town or city we've got here in Edwards County, well, the deputies, if they see that, they will pull over and they will tell the state trooper to move on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the state trooper does. They get in their vehicles and they move on. And sometimes that saves some of our citizens from unnecessary tickets because, well, sometimes the state patrol can get a little overzealous on some of their activities. But anyway, folks, we're not the only place in the United States that enjoys this. We've got a lot of constitutional sheriffs rising, a lot of constitutional sheriff candidates. And that's what I encourage people to do is, get out there and talk, folks. It's like Drake says, and I'm going to repeat it again, put down the beer, get off your butt, and let's move. I mean, it's not only your freedom that's at stake. If you've got kids at home, you need to look at those kids. And you need to ask yourself, do you want them to have something better than what you're seeing now? And if that don't motivate you, I just don't know what will.
Well, in some respects, if we collectively, the citizens, if we do not do something and do it soon, our children, and I've got 3 sons that are all grown and so forth, but they're young and they are faced with a life that will be much worse than mine ever was. And I think the key, and I think you brushed up against it there, was to get to the local sheriffs, find out if they're a constitutional sheriff, and if they need persuading, get a hold of Richard Mack and have him talk to them.
Yeah.
But if they're not, if you've got a sheriff that is not particularly a constitutional sheriff and really wants to fight the militia and so forth, then we have, as citizens, the option to go find a candidate for sheriff that, in fact, will pay attention to the militia, will utilize them, will put them in a position within their county and so forth that they can call upon them. Share training, like many good constitutional sheriffs around this country that are starting to utilize the militia, literally are sharing training. Not that they're creating a bunch of law enforcement people, but they're creating trained people that can be used in an emergency, that can be used as backup under the direct orders of his sheriff deputies. This is what the militia is supposed to be. And if you've got a sheriff that is intractable, as they say, and doesn't want to do this under any circumstances, like I heard one time, I can't remember where it was, and he said, well, he says, as long as they obey the law, I don't mind what they're doing, but he said the idea of calling on them for any reason never happened. You find somebody like that, replace them. Just replace them. Find a candidate that is willing to work with you as a militia.
Right. Something else I bring to people's attention. Now, every sheriff swears an oath to their state constitution, along with our constitution in general for the United States. So, do what I did, folks. Don't go in there and talk to them about the New World Order, Agenda 21, and some of this other stuff, unless that sheriff brings it up. If it's on his mind, we'll find and knows the situation. Let him bring it up, or her. We have some great female sheriffs out there, too. Some of the ladies who rose to the occasion and became really good sheriffs, too. And stick to the law. That's what I did. I went to my sheriff and my county judge, and I basically took 4 pieces of information. One was a flyer on a safe formation of a militia unit. The second piece I took in was Article 1 of the militia standards, what the militia is supposed to do. And on top of that, I took in 2 pieces of literature. One was the law. Another one was reference to law. The reference to the law was titled Texas and U.S. Laws on Independent Militias. Now, that referral comes out of our state constitution here in Texas. Then I took subchapter E, which defines the citizen's militia under the law. That's present law, too. That's not old-time business. And a lot of states have this in their state constitutions. And what people need to understand is if a sheriff says no, and you've produced a safe buildup that includes the proper people within your elected community, and you have stuck to the law on the buildup of your militia, folks, he can't say no. If he says no or she says no, you now have them in breach of their oath of office, and you have another legal step to pursue. That's something you better bear in mind. Now, I was lucky. My judge and my sheriff both liked what I presented. They thought it was pretty slick that I stuck to the law. They said, hey, Rick, why don't we take this before the county commissioners? I said, heck, why not? So we booked myself to get in front of the county commissioners in our county. Just repeated process, folks. You stuck to the law. And I got absolutely no objection, so you're going to hear about the first legal, legitimate militia in Texas in 98 years coming out of the mouth of Low County here in Edwards County. It's going to start getting going here real soon. I've got some other people coming in to help me. We're going to start getting with the sheriff and doing what we need to do to form up here in the county and do it in a very safe, productive way. And the county commissioners even realized that by the law I produced, they could not say no. One of the county commissioners asked, do we put this to a vote? And another county commissioner says, no, sir, you don't understand. We can't vote on a right. This is this man's right to bring this forward, and by law, we have to provide a avenue for him to function this way. That's just the way it is. There is no vote on this. And if we voted and we said no, now we're all in violation of our oaths. And we actually had one of our sheriff candidates there. We're going to lose our sheriff. He's retiring, and I don't blame the man. He served 28 years as sheriff of this county, and he wants to retire. I think he deserves that. I'm going to hate to see Donnie Letzinger step down as sheriff, but, you know, he's done his job, and he's done it well. And if there's a sheriff out there that deserves a break, I say Donnie Letzinger's the man. So You know, the good news is we've got one female. She's running for sheriff. That's probably who I'm going to end up voting for right there because, well, I've known this lady for quite some time. She's been a deputy for Donnie for a long time. She knows the insides of the county works and how the people are. And, well, I like Pam. She's always been my friend. But the good news is even her opponent was at the presentation at the county commissioners meeting. And that man even stood up and said that, Mr. Light, my hat's off to you. And if I get elected, I want everybody here in this room to know that I will support what you're doing. And he told me that was a job very well done. So, look, folks, this ain't the only county in the United States. There's a lot of counties out there. But you're not going to know this until you get out there and you get busy. Put some boots on the ground. You know, make that extra effort. Yeah, it took me and my wife 3 or 4 days of our life to get that done. But wow, look at the ground we made. I would say that was 3 or 4 days worth of effort really well put. And to think that multiplied by, 300 or 400 times across the United States, folks, that's going to start saying a lot of things too. And that's going to start building momentum. And that's like I tell folks, you want to really shake up Washington, D.C., guess what? You can march on them all you want. They're just going to look out the window and say, look, there's another march. Been done too many times, folks. You want to really shake them up? Start taking back your communities. Start getting that done clear across the United States. The more communities that come back under that Constitution and get constitutional electives serving the people, well, you're going to start seeing a big change in D.C. too. That's going to really shake something up. So that's my advice to folks is, look, it's just time to get busy. I know Drake he just hammers on that one real hard.
Yeah, I got a question.
Go ahead, Drake.
Man, they wanted to know what the area code for your other guest be.
I believe it's 937.
Okay, they'd be hunting and they couldn't find it, or the other guest ain't there or something, and that's why I was asking.
Okay. I'm starting to say I can't see my chat, folks. I'm out here on the back porch pacing back and forth.
Ain't it funny how this thing does that to you?
What's that?
Isn't it funny how this sort of a show does that sort of thing to you? You
well,
think
no,
went around on your feet?
My time, I get my exercise at the same time. It serves a pretty good purpose.
Well, there's a lot of things coming.
It's all about the cardio.
Well, there's a lot of things I can't discuss right yet, and I've been telling them that in the chat, among other things. But I'm going to have some juicy stuff. I guess I'm still on Wednesday, as far as I know I am. And I guess, when is your next show?
Well, that's going to be on New Colony tomorrow night. But I guess if you're needing some backup for Wednesday, I'll be more than happy to jump in with you there, Drake. So, heck, whatever those ladies and you need, you know I'm going to do my best to oblige y'all.
Okay. Well, I didn't know if he's on once a week or what was going on here exactly, so that's why I was asking. They keep changing the schedule, and I forget to remember what it was.
Well, I think they just added a show. I don't think they changed the schedules. They just added the Sunday show. Yeah, of course, with your show, I'm doing 4 now, but that's okay. I remember one time you asked, well, who's going to get loud, and I told you I could get loud, so this is my way of getting loud.
Amen.
Now, you're what, Fire Eagle? Is that who you are?
Firehawk.
Firehawk. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And you being down there in Gator Country?
Oh, yeah.
Right
down there just south of Tampa Bay.
Oh, okay. That's a pretty good place to be.
Oh, yeah. I love it here. I wouldn't go. I like Oregon, and it's beautiful, but I would never go back there because it just rains too much.
We we went on the other side of the country, it's better there. Here, it don't rain like that.
Well, folks, I had to move from Florida. I just got a little tired of that. Me and my wife spent 16 years in St. Augustine and quite a few years before that living in Jacksonville. And we were on the east side of the fence. Our place in St. Augustine, you could hear the ocean crashing on the beach. So we was probably within a half mile of the ocean there, and the humidity was just horrendous. So not only that, the politics really got out of whack. So we felt like it was time to move somewhere else that we would kind of enjoy better, and I'm glad to say that, hey, I can't think of a better place to be where I'm at. So I guess it just all depends if where you're at suits your business and how you like to live.
Well, that's the beauty of living in this country. You get to go where you want to go. And I don't know.
Well, if we don't do something, that might change too.
That might change too. I mean, I read what was it? I didn't read it. It was a video I saw on the RAM site, and I mean, there's serious plans to go to have the DHS, Department of Homeland Security, and Transportation Safety go from airports. Now they're doing trains and ferries, the ferry boats and so forth. And eventually the inside information is basically, eventually they will be doing highways where they will put up, you know how you have truck stops. And you have truck stops in the entrances to states and so forth, so they can, get their taxes, so the highway taxes from the truckers and so forth. And I guess the same idea. They're going to put these things on freeways and roads and so forth, and pat you down or what they think they are. We'll see what happens with that, but they don't plan to stop. They don't plan to stop anytime soon. Hmm?
Right, they're going to attempt to do certain things, and some of this stuff I'm going to reiterate is fear porn. That's the new term I like to use for it. Somebody dropped it in Facebook in the Freedom Range group. I can't remember who it was. It was some young lady, and I enjoyed the word, and it properly suits what we're experiencing. We had some rumor of a law that could pass on the borders down here, clear across the southern borderline. And I guess they can apply it to the northern borderline too, and that is they can basically seize any property that they want within 100-mile hunt from the border, clear across the southern half of the United States. That includes seizing your well, your property, or whatever they need to do, all in the name of, the terrorists are coming to get us. Here again, that big bad boogeyman that they created in 9/11 in order to be able to do the things they do now.
There's more to it than that.
Well, go to it. Great.
Okay. You might find this in the archives. Everybody's heard of the American Civil Liberties Union. They have a map that shows a provision of a little thing called Homeland Security Act, which stipulates that there are after the act was initiated a couple of years down the road, a little thing called a constitutional free zone, and it's a real mother. And the reason it's a real mother is because the Constitution is suspended within 100 miles inland of all of our national borders, supposedly meaning they can do anything they want, to include seizing property or violating your rights, etc. So you might want to take a look at the borders and how many people live within those zones and have no clue. I've been sending I've been sending that map out for several years now, and I'm real surprised nobody actually has gotten up in arms and upset about it. But accordingly, this is a part of the death of the Constitution that was designed by the people who did 9/11, among other things, so that as your rights fade into the sunset, they can do it with us as they please. So somebody might want to pick up on that, because it's very real. It's in the Homeland Security Act, and I thought that was pretty sneaky that they put it in there in such a way that it came in after the fact, down the road a couple of years after it was put in. All of a sudden, you don't have any rights 100 miles inland from all our national borders. So, you know, think about how many people live in that zone and go from there.
Drake, when was that enacted?
2 years. It came into effect 2 years after Homeland Security, and I don't remember the date of Homeland Security. I do know that Homeland Security was such a large bill that it was pre-written, so that tells me there was forethought and planning in 9/11, among other things, and the fact that they wanted to take as many rights as was possible by committing a false flag terrorist attack here on the United States. People go to conspiracy theory, and that certain things cannot be done. Physical laws prevent regular old fuel oil from melting steel, as an example. It's just fun. If somebody wants to look, there's plenty of sites out there. But basically, it was a fraud to get the Homeland Security Act passed, and the reason they wanted to do that was twofold. First of all, for this provision that's in it, but secondly, primarily to state that under any stated, not declared, not voted on, not officially run through Congress and Senate emergency, they could do anything they wanted to, thereby lessening or diluting your rights. You know, you take coffee and add water to it, pretty soon it tastes pretty funky, and that's the idea. People will put up with it because it's one little bitty bit at a time and things that they don't know about. And it's called sneaking up on somebody. It's like the 3 sets of books that they've got for the international finance. Little minor things people don't know about. A lot of truckers carry 2 sets of books, one for the cops and one for the real deal. You know, it's cheating the 5 miles over the speed limit and all this has become the accepted form of living. Cheating a little bit here and there on this or that takes away honesty, because pretty soon you're cheating on everything and the honesty don't mean nothing at all. One of the reasons for marriage failures, one of the reasons people have an illness, a really funky disease called apathy, meaning they don't feel like they can do anything of their own, that they, as an individual, don't mean much. Well, the thing is, if these couch potatoes would get off the couch, there'd be quite a few potatoes walking around. You know, but there is loads of this stuff that has happened, transpired, and goes on. The idea that Border Patrol agents or federal officers can come 100 miles, 200 miles inland and put up a barricade and say, you got to stop and we're going to inspect you. No. You know, I mean, there's a whole load of things that are going to be changed. There's a lot of people going to be looking for a job. We will have them, but the place they've been working at and the work they've been doing ain't going to exist anymore. Put it that way.
Oh, that's quite evident to see. You see the constant erosion of work going down everywhere. I know Texas is usually pretty strong, and it usually, the economy, when the economy crashes nationwide, Texas doesn't suffer as badly as fast as most nations do, because, well, we pretty well have our own economic stability in some ways. But unfortunately, Texas is still kind of what you call nanny-tied to the federal government. And because of that, well, it eventually starts to catch up here. And I'm just recently learned that actually Oklahoma has some places that are still doing well with their job situation. I believe it's up around Oklahoma City and in through there. But we've noticed a big degrade here in Texas start to occur, and that should be a big warning sign for a lot of people. Is when you start to see Texas start to crumble at the knees there on their economic situation, well, that should say a lot for what's going on in the rest of the United States.
Well, the reason for that is they closed the Space Administration. They did that purposely to hurt Texas most of all.
Right. Well, I know that they picked on our oil and our gas reserves here, too. The owner of the ranch that I manage is an oil man, and he pretty well keeps me update with the lies and the atrocities that go on in them realms. If people only really knew about some of the things that go on with the oil and the gas here in Texas, they'd really get mad.
They knew how they were getting screwed in a lot of other ways. They get real mad.
Well, maybe I can get Ken to come on the radio show one evening and kind of explain some of this stuff, and they would get it firsthand from somebody that deals in oil and gas. And
I'm gonna see if I can find that link again to that map, because it's rather concise, and they've got cases pending where people's rights have been violated in Southern California and other places due to the fact that they can get away with it supposedly because of the Homeland Security Act. And I thought that was really interesting to me. I mean,
right.
I thought everybody'd get outraged and go ballistic, and everybody kind of whimpered, the beer's still cold, couch is soft, and the game's on.
Well, they're not quite getting after it yet. But give them time, they will. They'll start to accelerate it here and there. As they start to lose their grip on certain other arenas, they're going to tighten the noose on other things. Here again, the importance of community and militia. So I can see where our topic's pretty well tying into everything else. That's why I wanted to make sure we included the fear porn out there. And got into that. Yeah, one I really like, and I'm going to get into it again, was the situation in Colorado. We just recently seen patriots and people running around screaming the sky was going to fall, that this was it, prepare for war, because the Russians are coming, and they're coming to get us. There was going to be I think it started off as 20,000 troops. Then it went to 100,000 troops. Then it went to 400,000 troops. And guess what happened? It was verified. 22 Russian soldiers showed up to cross-train with the American military. Nothing new. It's been going on for a long time. And, I'm beginning to think that there's a lot of patriots out there that should take that as a lesson learned. Not to fall for all the hype out there, folks. Look, our enemies it's like I explained earlier. There's some dangerous elements we're facing, make no mistake. But we really need to focus on the real dangerous elements, like, the one that we were just talking about. That one is for real. The NDAA is for real. Patriot Act is for real. The internment camps are for real. Those are some of our real troubling points out there, and what folks need to realize is our enemies purposely put that hype out there, and I really believe it's to hope that they'll trigger some kind of an effect to where they can start picking on these groups. Start sticking these groups into the internment camps. Here again, going back to what Drake mentioned, give it to us a little bit at a time. And as they're giving it to us, turning the fear volume up, making us be more and more afraid to get up with groups and to unite and to do what's right for our nation and our children and even ourselves. And that's to stand up, get busy. Folks, you ain't got to be violent or nasty. That's not what we're asking. We're asking you just to get up and get busy. You can do that with a smile on your face. I wasn't mad when I made my presentation. I had a big old grin from ear to ear and just talk sense to people. Here again, me and Drake both have harped on trying to get people to communicate. Sometimes it's as simple as just going out and saying hello, how you doing, my name's such and such, and hey, see you got a nice pretty garden over there, and you know what, folks, most people know about the laws passed on gardens. Here again, you know, that conversation with your neighbor, let your neighbor kind of lead the conversation for a while and get to know them a bit. You'd be surprised maybe what they might start talking about, and then you can elaborate on more things from there. Great way to communicate. Sometimes communication isn't necessarily talking, but part of communication is listening too. So hopefully putting some helpful hints out there. I know some people are going, but man, they think I'm crazy. Well, you got to look at what's the substance of your conversation. And are you trying to put all this out there at one time, you know, instead of trying to trickle it in a little bit at a time and seeing what your neighbor knows. And some people get a little overzealous because they feel the need is drastic. We understand that. Lord knows that, like I say, we've got some real troubling things we've got to address. But it's how we address them that's going to make a lot of difference. And if I'm not mistaken, we should be coming up on the top of the hour here in just a few minutes. I hope our people running the board are ready for a song. Matter of fact, I believe it is the top of the hour. Firehawk, Drake, anybody want to add something to what I just said there before we take this little break and listen to a song? I believe Drake mentioned something about a couch potato.
Well, the only thing I'd like to say, frankly, is that offering, you know, running around and, you know, with a panicked look in your eye and so forth is not going to solve anything. You're not going to get any allies. You're not going to get anybody to listen to you or take you seriously. Well, you're exactly right. What we need to do is essentially do this quietly, softly, get our facts together, and say, you know, you understand that this is happening and this is happening. Bring it down to the local level. That's absolutely critical. It's absolutely essential, because nobody's going to, you know, a man can stand on the top of a mountain and scream for all he wants, you know, and 35 yards away, nobody's going to understand what he's saying. If he does just the opposite, goes down and gets to people face to face, 2 and 3 feet away, say, here's what's happening, and so forth. You start people talking, they start learning, they start digging in for themselves about what's going on, what the consequences are of some of the things that have happened, and then stick with the reality that there's the old saying that all politics is local. It's the same thing, only on the other side of the coin in this particular case. It's local. And once you get a local community behind you, then you've won half the battle. You truly have. But you got to get those people first.
Break time.
All right, we're going to break, guys. We will be back after a little bit of couch potato.
All right. Are we back?
We back.
All right.
I'm back.
Well, I was hoping we'd get into a second song there, but heck, we're back.
Hey, they want us to do Q&A at the bottom of the hour, too, so I guess everybody gets to talk to us about all the fun stuff going on.
Oh, yeah. Well, hey, that's part of the show, so we'll take it as it comes, you might say.
All Q&A is the best opportunity we have.
Well, there's Q&A coming from Florida. Some ladies want to get tied up with a militia down there. And I told them to send the info to Mr. Minuteman, who could forward it to you.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
I mean, there's a lady down in Florida. Her name is Amelia Foxwell. She's been on this show. And she's with CCOM, as you know, Firehawk. And great people. Yeah, her and Derek are great people. And we would highly suggest that get involved with them. They're very community-oriented, doing everything they can to reach every sheriff they can, and even the governor, too. Florida's got a few problems with its militia clause, and, well, they're working on it, folks. So get in there and help them out. If you're in Florida, jump right in with both feet.
Oh, yeah. We're getting down to a time, and nobody can really guess when that time might be. I suspect sooner, but other people say, well, it's later. But we're getting down to a time when numbers, as well as good intentions, are going to count a whole lot. And so the more good people that we can get into an organized militia or an organized organization, the better off we're going to be. And the faster we do that, the better we're going to be able to handle what's coming.
You betcha.
So,
well, not only that, I have a lot of faith in our military. I can't help but think that they're getting just about fed up with this mess. Getting sent off to fight some of the wars they're having to fight, and sitting there watching president candidate get knocked around. Supposedly, a lot of them support Ron Paul. Just watching everything that's going down in their country and everything that, well, their history said that they fought to preserve just isn't getting preserved.
Nope.
And, yeah, I've got this deep feeling inside me that, well, you know what, folks? If you're ready, that military might be too. And you need to show them that. And that's one way you do that. And that's to get up and you say, all right, we know it ain't got to lie all on your guys' back. We got our job to do too. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to get ready. So when you guys are ready and we're all ready, we're going to see this thing through. And that's what I suspect is going to come down the line. Might be a little sooner than what a lot of folks think, too. So bear this stuff in mind, folks. Don't think that military's going to come after you. I just don't believe they will. You got to remember, their moms, dads, nieces, nephews, children, wives, husbands, aren't they part of us, too? Now, why would they take and do something against their own? Don't make much sense to me. So let's try to remember this and know that it's going to be a combined effort. That's how things happened in 1776, folks. People started getting together in their communities, and they raised their militias up from there, and it wasn't easy. They had a lot of the same problems we have, the infighting going on there, little fear going on about the king, knowing the king had the largest army in the world. And they got past all that. I even read a part where George Washington got frustrated about the militia itself. But you got to remember, our militia produced our first military, folks. So that's basically how it goes. We're going to have to repeat process again. Because, well, it's just a handful of people out there, folks, that's wanting to steal from you. They've been stealing from you. Been stealing from our parents. And their parents, too. I say it's got to end. I'm saying it's up to us to end it. But, let's not leave it all on the military shoulders, folks. That's just not fair. What's fair is we all get together and we show the military that we're ready if they are. And, well, they just might not see it yet. That's my best advice, is to remember that military just might be waiting on you. So what are you going to do about it? Are you going to answer the call? Well, we're going to sit down and keep watching the football games and say there's nothing we can do. Because, folks, I just don't believe that. I haven't believed that in 20-some years. And I know some folks are like, hey, you know, well, Minuteman, they're going to come and get me if I get involved with that. Well, let me tell you something. If I can be in the militia for 21 years, I still walk around on my property. They ain't shackled me yet. They ain't put no devices on my ankles to know where I'm at. None of that stuff. Matter of fact, through my journey in the militia, when I do have to deal with some of our FBI and some of the law enforcement, they know who I am. Make no mistake. I think I've got a pretty good reputation out there when it comes to militia. And folks, they don't threaten me to lock me up in jail. They don't do that stuff to me. Know this. There's patriots out there everywhere, folks. It ain't just in us. I've talked to several FBI agents that's told me, God bless you, Minuteman. Keep doing what you're doing. We don't like this mess either. So, yeah, we're not alone out there, folks. Don't let that handful bluff you into a false sense of fear. You know, I got over the boogeyman a long time ago. Once I learned that boogeyman wasn't in the closet, well, I wouldn't go in the closet no more. And that's what we all got to remember is this stuff out there that just fake. It's a bluff, folks. It's more of a bluff than what it can be a fight. Yeah, but if we don't get together and do something, it's going to turn into teeth against us. Right now, we have the teeth.
There's a funny in the chat room.
What's that?
There's a real funny in the chat room. 3 of my kids just got their license to carry just like Mom. Grin. Yep. Honestly, what we need to do, everybody, is 2 things. First of all, talk to everybody. That don't mean you got to talk to them about freedom necessarily, but just talk to them. Get to know people. Yeah. When you get to know people, they expect to see you. When you are seen and you got a rapport with that person, and that's like, you know, buddy system kind of thing. And how's it going and what's happening? And, oh, I'm having trouble with this. Oh, really? Well, you know, I just happen to be a plumber. You want me to come over and take a look at your sink? Well, sure. Would you do that? Well, of course I would. Whereabouts you live? You know, off you go. Do it for them for free if they'll sit and listen to you for a few minutes, and then be cool about what you say. And being cool about what you say is, you know, very simple. If people would stand together like they used to and are used to being taught to stand together, then you get a situation where if the whole world sits down, who's going to move you? Ain't going to be nobody left to pick you up and do anything with you. You know, it's kind of like a sit-down strike kind of deal. That's just one aspect, totally, absolutely nonviolent. In this particular instance, you're going to have a little bit of violence, not much. There are going to be some idiots that are going to object to the point of using guns. That's their problem. There's not much that can be done beyond the willingness of an individual to do something. And here's how it is. If you like the couch and you like the beer and you like watching a game, you might want to get up off the couch now so that you can continue to do that maybe sometime in the future, because they're going to take all that away from you. And the description is simple. You know those containers, them shipping containers? Think about living in one of them stacked up with a set of iron stairs. Think about your kids living in one of them. And I don't know if they guarantee any windows or not, but think about that. Think about being stacked in a location that's convenient for them to throw some kind of slop at your door every day so you got something to eat. Maybe giving you some water, maybe not. Maybe working you 16 hours a day to go along with it. Who knows? I mean, now, if you don't like that idea, think about what that would do to your mind if you knew your kids was going that way. That's all I'm asking you to think about. And if you don't like that idea, then I ask that you get up off the couch and join up with us. The call-in number is 714-868-0749, and we're getting ready for calls pretty quick here. We got a few minutes yet, but I thought I would throw that in. Think about it now. Shipping containers. Think about living in one of them nasty things, okay? Think about them stacked up in a city like you see in some of these funky movies. That's exactly what they had in mind for us, get us all in one spot, and then, then all you got to do is hook up electrical to the, containers and flip the switch and get rid of everybody. That's, one kind of frying the animal in the cage or whatever you might want to, consider. But, I mean, take the fear out of it and look at it this way. If, and in several different cases, it's only been 2-3% of the population. Think what if 10, 20, 30% said, hey, do you think that at least one person for each one of them wouldn't say, really? Now you're up to 60. I did an addressment of the troops. 99% of them have heard it, to include command. And it stipulates legal, lawful and unlawful orders, how you're supposed to conduct yourself. They are not willing to go against us. You got to think about that. The military, ain't willing to go against us. There's a few nutcases that will, yeah. But there ain't very many, and the good guys are going to be right after them. This I've already heard. So, there ain't nothing to fear but fear itself, just like that crazy president said once. So, there you go. That's my little spiel.
Well, I think that I think one of the misconceptions is that, as we're sitting on our couch, drinking the beer and watching the game, nothing's happening. Nothing, we haven't seen anything bad yet. Nothing's going on. Why should we think that something's going to happen? And, to our generation, it might not. But again, if you think, I think of my 3 boys. I don't have that long left in this world. I don't know, 10, 15 years if I'm lucky. What's going to happen in 20 years from now, 25, 30 years from now, when those 3 boys, or anybody's children these days, what's going to happen to them if we don't stop? Are they going to gradually accept this for over and over and over through the years? What sounds outlandish in terms of, living in the Connex containers or whatever, maybe not. Maybe not. We can't predict the future, but I know that there's a lot of forces out there that would just dearly love to undo this country, undo the freedom, and grab our resources and basically take out the country. They're out there. They've been out there for a century and a half. To sit there on that couch and think, well, it'll never happen here, all you got to do is look at history. Look at the countries around the world and what has happened in them. And some of them, it took 50, 100 years, 200 years. In other ones, it took a year, 2 years. It can happen. It absolutely can happen. So, and it's going to be a lot easier to stop it now, reverse this train now, than 10, 15, 20 years down the road.
Oh, yeah.
So,
there's a simple saying that covers that.
What's that?
Get her done.
Yeah, get her done.
Indeed.
That's right.
Yeah, get her done right now because, and that's not to say to jump the gun. That's to say get prepared, get ready, get your communities in into a cohesive state with everybody on the same page. And if you do that enough around the, you start at the city or the town level, then the county, then the, region and the state, and then your entire state, and then state by state, everybody's ready to push back. And it just simply, we won't have to. It just simply won't work.
We got a lot more people awake now. than I've
Well,
ever
one of
seen.
one of the things people need to know about is Nacera. A lot of people have heard about it. They've been asking me. I've checked with everybody I can check with other than making a personal appearance at the Pentagon. They probably wouldn't like that. And I probably wouldn't get back out from the restroom anyway. But Nacera is intended to be implemented just as the original was written, not the one you can read about now. This one's all clammed up, sealed, and all that. However, the military does have a copy, and the law is still there. It ain't been totally expunged. It's just out of the records, and it's sealed so people can't see it. The only thing I took issue was, and I questioned this today with a couple of people that are expert in the field, well, they were looking at a tax. And the guy said, well, let's take the word tax and trash it, and let's use a basic user fee. In other words, the cost of a road from here to there is this much, and the cost is broken up by the number of travelers on that road per year. So you end up with $1 or maybe $2, and you don't have any taxes. You're paying for the usage of an item. It's kind of like renting something. And I don't mind that too much, as long as it ain't too high, but some people will object to that anyway. Still, I want everybody to understand, part of the financial deal is to put Nacera back into place. So y'all got something nice to look forwards to. I'm telling you, there is a lot of things in that law that really straighten stuff out. And it'll make it a lot better place to be, a lot better way to live. People on very limited incomes, Social Security and things of this nature, or just plain disability. And I'm talking about the ones really disabled. The gist of it is simple. These things will be seen to an extent that you can trade some time and your talent a little bit, and you get a certain amount of whatever it takes to keep you going. Ain't no big deal. But it's something everybody needs to be aware of. There's another little one for y'all.
Yeah, I looked into a little bit of that, and it kind of opened my eyes to, well, what happened with our farming communities, back in the, I believe it was, 50s. And, we've noticed a constant degradation of our farming in general since then. And it just seems like it's getting worse and worse and worse. More and more ranchers I know around in Texas are selling their cattle out and no longer raising beef. This is all by design. It ain't a big mistake. That's plain to see. If anybody just take enough time to research things, find out for themselves, they'll see that, well, this was pretty well orchestrated. Why would any government entity ever want to do this to a free people? And it's real simple, folks. It's to weaken you down and get you to give up your freedoms and submit to where they can just rule every resource there is. And now they want to, heck, they even want to rule the air, the water, everything. That's just plain to see.
The federal government does rule the air and the water right now. It's called the EPA.
Nope.
And they enforce it. They enforce it with SWAT teams. As I was growing up as a young man in this country, that was absolutely unheard of. The FDA and that sort of thing. SWAT teams, police types with guns. No, didn't exist. Well, it does now. It indeed does now. Say it again.
My dog, he has this problem with running through my pepper patch. I don't know what it is. He's got to run through my pepper patch.
Well, but we'll take the pepper and toss it on his nose. He'll sneeze it.
That's the problem. The cayennes ain't up high enough to be producing the cayennes yet. Now, after that happens, maybe we can get something done with that.
I see.
Actually, what happens is we have access from our garden, and some of the rodents and stuff around the area, well, they carry some of it off And then the following year, lo and behold, we have tomatoes and peppers growing all over the place. It's really a wonderful thing. I'm not complaining at all. So sometimes they just don't realize they're running through the patch of peppers or what have you. Now, speaking of food, here again, let's go back into food, folks. Now they're passing laws about your food, what you eat, from your gardens down to certain animals.
Yep,
down to certain animals. What state was it that passed the law where they kill these certain pigs? I mean, come on, folks, people were eating those pigs.
Yeah,
they didn't like the idea of that.
Michigan is the so-called feral pigs. Feral pigs being pigs that have been in the pen since birth and had never gone and escaped or anything else. But we talked about that a couple of days ago, and remember I said the actual impetus. It was a state law passed by the legislature. This wasn't the feds doing it, and the impetus was the Pork Producers Association in Michigan. They were losing money because people were in fact butchering these pigs and so forth, and so they were losing revenue. So they got with the state legislature. Who knows if money changed hands? I don't know. But all of a sudden the legislature comes up with this, the Michigan legislature comes up with this absurd concept that we have to go get rid of all of the feral pigs when they weren't feral at all. And most of these pigs they didn't sell them. They didn't sell them meat. They kept them for their own personal use, and that didn't make any difference. This is the sort of thing that, you've heard of thought police. Here's a food police. They're at the state level at that point, but the federal government is still doing the same thing. This idea that, now you can't sell raw milk. Really? I don't understand that, because for how many thousands of years have people been getting the milk out of the goats and the cows and so forth and drinking it, and we're still here, folks. We're still a civilization. Our ancestors did that, and all of a sudden it's bad for us. I don't understand it at all.
Well, they'll take a handful of situations where, some milk may have gotten bad for some reason. Somebody didn't take care of it right.
And the nanny state comes along and implies one small rule to everybody in the country.
That's right. And, here again, folks, what are we going to do about this? These are real problems that we're bringing up. They're the real issues that we need to start addressing. Another one I'm going to kind of dab at a little bit, it's going around right now, is the idea that martial law will be implemented nationwide by July 1st.
Pardon me for my chuckling.
That's what I did, because I chuckled. And guess what, folks? That isn't likely to happen. And let me explain why. Fact is, number one, me and Greg's discussed this, they could gather every soldier in the world, along with every mercenary, and they still wouldn't have the manpower to lock down them borders. Like, as Dean said, I think the quote was, they're going to lock down the borders, and, nobody's ever going to get out. Nobody's coming in, and nobody's ever going to get out. And I kind of snickered at that one, because I happen to know the layout of just in my area alone along the border. I've been along the border of Texas and checked it out. And, man, are they going to have to line a lot of people up to where they can see eyeball to eyeball just on the Texas border alone. Now, I can't imagine stretching that clear over into California. And then to think of our border up north doing the same thing there. Not only that, locking down every city in the United States.
Yeah, that's.
Let's think about this. Yeah, let's look at it rationally, folks. Here again, I've seen a little bit of fear porn popping up on this, and I'd like to address it some tonight. And let's bring reality into the picture. Trying to lock down the United States in one time, well, it's impossible, folks. It just can't be done. It's like I've stated, they might be able to close a couple cities off into that effect. But guess what? That's going to warn the rest of the United States of what's going on. And at that point, people are going to get really upset. And some of those couch potatoes, some of those couch potatoes are going to get up and say, "Where's my gun? This ain't going down."
They're going to put down the beer. Go find the ammunition.
Yeah, they're going to put down the beer. Well, we're hoping that we can get them to put down the beer before then. But that's what they're going to face is citizens' armies all over the place. And it's going to be uncontrollable. That's just the fact.
So
we basically got them. We have them, just the population of the United States has them from really trying to do that. Now, could they try in a city or two? Yeah, sure. That's a possibility. But still, it's going to be real hard for them to contain the city. I think some people like to watch the movies just a little too often about all these super helicopters dropping in, and, all these black-suited thugs come popping out of their vans, and the tanks roll in, and all this other stuff. Well, Hollywood's great for entertainment purposes, but the reality of it, folks, just ain't going to suit fit.
Yeah, they're actually doing that right now as we speak in Chicago for the NATO conference. They have cordoned off. I don't know. Somebody said it's like a half mile in every direction, or maybe it was a mile. I can't remember. So the protesters won't bother them, and you can't get to it, and that sort of thing. So, and essentially, they have declared a footprint of martial law, a martial law footprint, if you will. I know they are planning to do exactly the same thing in Tampa for the Republican National Convention here in Tampa this summer in August. That's already started. They've already got plans laid out and so forth, and
so they're going to sure people understand it's not all.
They're going to create a safety. They're going to
off.
Yeah, exactly. But they have not shut down the city, and they've shut down a part of it. Well, but the amount of resources, as I understand it, the amount of resources it's taken to do that has just been phenomenal. I mean, we're talking tens of millions of dollars to try and think that they're going to declare.
Look at the manpower alone just in Chicago. I've seen some of the videos, and it takes a lot of manpower just to cordon off that small section of the city.
Yep.
Now try to imagine Chicago as a whole. Wow, think of the manpower it would take for that. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Here again, let's break this stuff down and let's look at the reality of it all. And don't get me wrong, folks, I'm not saying that we shouldn't be checking into things that pop up like that, by all means, but let's start vetting the information before we start spreading it around saying the sky is going to fall. Again, we got a lot more going for us than against us.
Yeah, that's a real key. To the sky is going to fall, and good old-fashioned intelligence work, logic, and so forth tells us, this may happen, and this may happen, and this may happen. Okay, well, now we can prepare for this and this and this. Doesn't mean it's going to happen. It means that if it happens, then we're going to be somewhat prepared for it, and that's what we need to do at this point.
Right.
So
well, I understand.
There's a whole lot more that's not going to happen than is going to happen. Pardon?
Right. I understand that a guest we've been waiting on has just came in, and I believe fixing to open EQ's mic up, equalizer. Are you with us yet, my friend? Not quite yet. Well, I'm sure he'll bounce in there here real soon. And as you were saying, Firehawk?
Well, just that my last thought was simply that there's a lot more that's not going to happen than is going to happen, I think. So.
Yes, I agree. I agree, and I believe Craig would probably nod his head yes, too, and maybe even have something to say about that.
About what?
How's the football game going?
Oh, boy. Well, I'll tell you what, my one finger is getting tired trying to keep up with the chat room. Hey, come on now. I do the best I can.
Hey, I know you do. My wife's in there with you. I don't know if her fingers are getting tired yet or not, but I'm not sure what our chat room numbers are, but Lord knows the Freedom Range chat is 90-0, and it is hard to keep up with.
Well, there's 150 people all talking at the same time, so, you know, it's really getting fun. I did Skype the link to the ACLU archive. Somebody put it in the chat room, and I Skyped it over to Deatra and them, told them to copy it. So hopefully we'll have that. But the thing everybody's got to remember is this. Okay, several things have gone on. The first thing was that everybody knew about, and that's the quote credit crisis. Well, that don't stop the printing presses, but there's also a lot of countries that won't accept U.S. dollars printed after a certain date. Now, if they don't tell you what the new money's worth, then I don't know what will. So, going from there, travel down the road just a bit, and there was a formation called the Eastern Alliance of Nations, and it implemented its own financial structure, an open, honest structure, believe it or not. And what it did was it pretty much gobbled up all these little countries that the big ones, the rich ones, have been going into and, you know, looting everything and leaving everybody sitting in the dust when they leave. Well, that can no longer be done. So what was left was in the system. And the funny thing about that is that everybody's been going to China. They've been going anywhere they can begging money. This is what Hillary Clinton's main objective has been when she went to China and a few other places. Anyway, so what that tells you is that the basic debt-oriented system is very simple. It is oriented on consumerism, meaning that a Ponzi scheme of this type requires new money to pay the old. When you ain't got the new money coming in, the old money dries up pretty quick. This is what's going on in the European Union now. Several countries have gone broke. They don't got no more money. And what that does is that really screws up your banking systems, among other things. So what is happening there is coming here. It's on its way. Now, what I understand is that they're going to use some Mickey Mouse stuff to try to put a Band-Aid on it. But what's going on here is this. Due to the fact that everybody's living it on money, even though there's a lot of dope money running in, the basis of it is that when those funds start getting limited, in other words, you got an income that was the gravy on the biscuits, and that income all of a sudden has to be used to get the biscuits. That means that you ain't got that extra money. That means that you cannot hire the thugs to go out and play games with people. And the other portion of that is that the only alternative left is to make illegal executive orders, and by that I mean those that cannot be enforced. You have to issue dictates included in things like the NDAA and things of this nature. The thing about that is that is called propaganda. Now, a lot of people don't know what that word means, basically, other than it's something that ain't true. But if you get around a Latino community and you see propaganda, that's usually found on trash cans because that's what that word means. And this is the only weapon, primarily, that these people have left. Well, there's a few things they can do. They can come out and screw around with you or try to or whatever, but from what I understand, even that is coming to a close simply because the money is slowly running out. It's kind of like that little hourglass, and it's getting down to the nubbins. So when you look at things and you understand, oh, they're going to come after you, really? Did they bring their own gas card because, you know, the government ain't got the money to fill the tank? When you look at it in that respect, then you get the idea and understanding of what is real and what is not. Now, my addressment to the military was simple. Are you with us or against us was part of it. And guess what? We got some 80-some% right off the top that's with us. I'm here to tell you, they can't handle that number, okay? Then you got the other part of, very simply, they're going to help us. Well, we should also return the favor. That can be militias, individuals, communities, don't matter. You stand with the people that are doing the righteous thing. The constitutional basis is the right thing to do. This will return your freedom, and this is why we're doing what we're doing. And I got something to say, man. They wanted us to go 15 minutes ago to Q&A, and I don't know if y'all's ready to do that yet. But I figured
I'd like to bring Equalizer on and introduce him to the folks and kind of tell about what he's got going on with some other folks up there in Ohio.
Okay, go for it.
Yeah, and that way some of our listeners, if they're interested in getting involved with some good people in the Ohio militia, well, then they're going to know who to contact. Are you with us there, Equalizer?
Man, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Well, welcome to the show, brother. You're here with Firehawk and Drake. And, well, just jump on it with both feet there, brother. Let us know about you, basically what you got going on, and, well, how does one contact you if they want to get involved?
To contact me easily, you know, I'm either via email, equalizer0311@hushmail.com, or they're on Facebook by my name, Billy J. Burns. But I actually represent the Miami Valley Militia. Say again?
And RAM, too. You're also in RAM.
RAM as well, absolutely. Just about any Patriot website out there, you'll find Equalizer or Equalizer 0311. Yeah, absolutely, RAM as well. And but no, I actually represent the Miami Valley Militia, not necessarily the Ohio Militia. I am a member of the Ohio Alliance, which connects me with every active constitutional militia in the state. So whether you're in my area or not, I can put you in contact with those throughout the state of good contacts, if you will, or personnel to get involved with.
Well, go ahead and say your email a couple times, my friend, so people can understand your email, and it gives them time to write it down if they care to write it down.
My email address is equalizer0311@hushmail.com. That is my active email address. I check it 2-3 times a day. If I'm unable to respond instantly, then I also have several guys that also check in on that as well, that will make that response as quickly as possible. You send me an email asking any kind of questions or whatever, wanting to get involved, we will respond as soon as possible. Miami Valley Militia is really what I want to talk about for just a second. We're not anything that you see on TV. What we are is a basic neighborhood watch for Southwest Ohio. You name the neighborhood, I guarantee. Now let me say that one more time. I guarantee I have a member of the Miami Valley Militia living in your neighborhood. Guaranteed. Southwest Ohio. What we are, what we actually do is get out, talk to our neighbors, tell them who we are. We involve ourselves with the law enforcement. Anything at all going on inside our neighborhoods, we are well aware of what's going on. You guys were talking about martial law earlier. Well, let's face it, folks. I mean, your standard police stations, your local, your county sheriffs and deputies, they're not able to impose martial law at all. I mean, without military backing. And think about that one for just a second. You've got military backing, you've got the police, and you've got the sheriffs as well, and the deputies. Well, guess who lives in these same very neighborhoods? Them, their families. Let's get real. Drop the conspiracies,
right.
Get over it.
Very well put, my friend.
He's raised. This is Firehagen. He's raised a very good point. The actual martial law, if you look at the definition of it, if you look at the working concept, the first thing that has to exist in order for martial law is generally called or ordered by a military commander, and he can do this supposedly only in the absence of a local civilian authority that is inoperative, whether it's by natural disaster or man-made disaster or whatever. That's when martial law can in fact be implemented by a military commander, is when civilian authority is inoperative or has no control within an area. The law is very specific on that. So this idea that even the president can just willy-nilly declare a martial law would be, at least from a legal standpoint, almost impossible. There would be challenges that would be instantly validated. So, of course, then, if you go to an extreme, anybody can declare whatever they want if they've got enough guns. And that's because it comes right back to the military. So, and what we talked about before, would the military, in fact, be, would they be sucked into that? Chances are not. They would not. No.
I'm with Drake. I have great faith in the military, and like I was telling folks, we have to be able to do our part too. If we want the military, Drake's went and asked these folks, look, are you with us or against us? They said, well, with you. And that was right off the get-go, I'm sure some's had time to think about it, and the numbers have probably grown. Here again, same situation that a police officer has living in a city or a deputy in a county. Their wives and children are all involved too. So, a lot of things to think about there. Well, I guess, gentlemen, if we're ready for Q&A, let's let the Q&A begin.
Yeah, we're ready, guys. And Sue, hope you're ready there with the boards. We're going to open up with area code 507, Howard. Howard, your mic is open.
Howard from Minnesota. I just thought I'd throw some info. I'm doing real good.
Good deal.
Yeah, I thought I'd throw some info out there. 20 years ago, Chuck Harder from Florida, For the People, said you ought to get a Amish farm hardware catalog. Ridley went out of business about 1980, so maybe you folks will put that in survival. and the militia.
Hey, Howard, do you have a question? We've got a lot of callers in the queue.
Okay, Drake, that UNESCO, I've got a person that asked me to find out how could we bring it back. Colorado was trying to do something with it this winter on the federal land bank fraud.
That's covered under NESARA.
Okay. Is there any activity at this time?
The NESARA will not be re-implemented until after the completion of our present mission.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you, Howard.
Thank you,
Thanks, Howard.
Let's go to our next caller. It's Robert from area code 559. Robert, we're opening your mic.
All righty. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yep.
you can.
Yes, sir.
There you are.
Okay, gentlemen, thank you for taking my call. I just want to ask a quick question, one question only. Drake, about the chemtrails. I live in Northern California, and they've ceased for the last 4 days because I keep an eye on it. Is that because something is going on, or is it because of the holidays? And I will hang up and let you answer, sir. Thank you all very much.
The chemtrail situation is very simple. As I said about people running out of money, well, somebody's got to pay for that fuel, so they're running short on money, and they can't do that stuff, unless they get paid. As I understand it, these are private contractors, so they're really stickly about, hey, you get to pay our fuel bill, and usually that's in advance for something like that, so that'll give you an idea as to what's really going on. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you for your call. Now we've got David from area code 520. Are you there, David?
Can you hear me?
We can.
Sure can.
All right, Minuteman, Drake, and Firehawk, you guys are the bomb. I love you guys.
Oh, thank you.
I don't have a question. I got a statement. Hey, Minuteman, this is DMAC. I just want you guys to know, everybody that's listening, to know that this guy's been online with me, giving me emails all day and letting me know what's going on. These guys are the real deal. And these guys are here to help us help ourselves. So no more of those stupid questions online on the chat about when's this going to happen. Get out there, do it yourself, and everybody will be thankful for that.
Amen, brother. Thank you.
Appreciate
and
that.
I love you guys.
Oh,
We love
thank
you too,
you.
brother.
Okay. Our next caller we have is the area code 941, and that would be Cindy.
Hello.
Hello,
Hi,
Cindy.
Cindy.
You're
Hi.
open.
Thank you. I have a question for Firehawk. I live in
Yes.
Sarasota County.
I can
and
tell.
I have
941.
941. I know you knew that. I have been on the website looking for somebody in Sarasota County in the militia, and the only thing I can find is every county but. Can you tell me how I can get in touch with somebody here?
Yes. Are you familiar with WRAM?
No.
Okay. If you will give
I
me
believe
half a
somebody
second.
can drop the website down. If I can interject here, there's a young lady by the name of Amelia Foxwell. She's on Facebook. Cindy, if you're on Facebook.
I'm not on
And she's
I don't do Facebook.
not on Facebook. Okay, she is on the RAM site as Patriot Girl.
Patriot.
And either way it goes, ma'am, if you'll join RAM, I'll make sure that you get up with Amelia and Darren. And
what's
they
your
are
last
in
name?
Sarasota County as well.
Okay. Well, and the other thing, Rick, is you guys said something about the age. As far as I'm concerned, age is only a number. But if
Ma'am,
it's legal,
don't look. The militia bracket of age is just a recommended age
okay.
for able-bodied citizens, right? And it's a recommended. It's not set in stone. If you're able-bodied, then by all means you have every right as an American citizen to be involved with the militia. And there's many things involved with the militia other than training with guns. Militia needs support. And
badly.
Right. So.
Okay.
Yes.
You know the other thing we need?
Nothing more than a number.
Wisdom. We need wisdom.
I have a lot of wisdom.
Yes. What were you saying, EQ?
I said age is nothing more than a number. What is it? Our national constitution says 17 to 47. Am I correct on that?
Yeah,
but
Ohio Texas
says 17 to 57.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it was.
Right there, and that's just in the state constitution versus the national. So,
yeah,
I mean, it is what it is, and that doesn't mean, at 67, I no longer am responsible for my family and their defense. As long as you are alive, breathing, you are responsible for yourself and your family.
Amen.
Therefore, it's the militia. And that doesn't, I mean, is there an age cutoff on that? A labeled body, I guess, but I don't see an age issue.
I got to believe that in 1775, April 19, and you know where I'm talking about, there in Lexington and Concord, I've got to believe that there were at least a couple of old farts wandering around on that green with a musket.
Oh, there was one man. There was one man. A story stands out, Firehawk, that was 78 years old, got shot 6 times, stabbed something like 4 times, and still lived to tell the tale.
Yeah. Age equals wisdom. And
I'm not an old fart, I say that.
Well, Cindy, by all means, we'll get you in touch with Amelia Foxwell and Darren Wilburn, and they're there in your county, and they're great folks. You're going to absolutely love them both, and we'll make sure that you get what you need.
You can try also doing a search for SECOM, SECOM.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you can actually join their site and get straight in there with them.
Once you get to the SECOM site, you will be hooked up with them directly. In fact, several people in Sarasota and Bradenton around in that area.
Mm-hmm.
So.
My name's Dennis.
All right, let's get our next caller.
All right, actually, thank you, Cindy, for calling in. We are actually going to go ahead real quick and take a break. We're going to play a commercial and then a song. Everybody get up and move around because I know everybody loves this song, so we're going to replay it again, Couch Potato. And we will be right back with more Q&A.
All right.
And we are back with more Q&A.
All right.
You guys ready? We are ready to move on. We have
Sounds
Jose
good.
next. Yep, we got Jose next from area code 304. Jose, are you available? Can you hear us?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay,
Can
you're
you hear
on.
me?
Come on in, Jose.
Hi, guys. Hi, Drake and Minuteman and Dr. Miola, Dietra. Okay, so I've got a weird question. What can we do to push our state legislators to flipping all this back to the Republic, and how soon can we get started on doing this in conjunction with what our military is going to be doing? Other than that, all I can say is, Drake, I think your dogs like your peppers. Bye, y'all.
Very simply, okay, what can you do? Well, first of all, you want to take a look at a thing called Follow the Money. Check each legislator, make sure that they're clean. And I don't care if it's a legislator, a governor, a local councilman, who it might be. Check them all. See who's got some kind of funny something or another going on, and then you know who to get rid of. Now, the other part of this is this sweep, this mass arrest is only going down to about the governor's level. They're going to have their hands full with that many. You got to remember there are a lot of dirties out there, and the laundry list is going to be huge. So what that leaves is usins. In other words, the local people are going to have to get their butts together, in gear, off the couch, and get the things together necessary in order to rectify the problem. One of the problems is that few people bother to get educated as to what their government's supposed to be looking like, what it's supposed to be doing, what the limitations are, etc. You need to learn these things, at least a few of you, so you can teach others, all right? Then, you also at the same time need to community organize, and the community organization is simple. You talk to each other. I mean, it don't get too much further than that. You find out what a person's individual ideas might be. Is this right? Is this wrong? What's going on? And pretty much you'll find out that as the people get organized, the locals will start taking note. They'll get curious, and you'll end up with a large group generally, because what you want to remember is one thing: forget politics. And by that I mean forget the parties, forget the BS that goes with it, forget the independents, forget the progressive and conservative and all that, and simply go at it in terms of what's best and how can we put it together so that it is best and stays that way. One of the first things you got to do is remove the bad guys. Number two is you are going to be able to decide for the first time in forever exactly what you want things to be like when you get done with it. It's going to be a we the people make the decisions, and you all got to do work for us, and if you want to continue to have paycheck, you do what we tell you to do. Pretty simple. And you can take religiosity in its entirety, all forms of it, and keep it out of there. This has to be absolutely perfectly clean from all kinds of any kind of control, influence, or, I don't know, favoritism, you know, them little sneaky things that they play with all the time. And in this manner, what you do is you create what you're looking at in terms of accomplishing a goal that's impossible. North Carolina says, ooh, we're the land of corruption. Really? Well, there's other places that are equally as bad. They just don't show it quite as much. So, you know, don't matter where you're at. Start out slow, start out careful, do your thing, and do your thing according to common law, according to the morality of the Golden Rule, and subdivide all that by the Constitution, and you should be just fine. Next question.
Okay. Our next caller is Jeff from area code 760.
Hi.
Jeff.
Jeff.
There you go.
Hi, Jeff.
How are you guys doing?
Good. We're doing great, my friend.
I just wanted to preface this by saying I'm also probably about the same age as most of you guys. I'm a Vietnam-era Air Force vet, and I've been socking my extra disability pay into Iraqi dinar. And one of the comments Drake made on one of his calls was about money. He was saying that part of this plan that includes the arrest was to zero out all bank accounts. And it looks like after waiting a couple of years for Iraq to get their act together, they might actually be able to pull this off and, you know, revalue their currency and make the paper that I've got stuck in my safety deposit box worth something. So my worry is that if they're going to zero my bank account just after RVs, well, I have been waiting all these years for nothing. So it's a money question.
Yeah, basically, everybody's in good shape. Basically, here's how this works, okay? The banking system is the basic power base for the bad guys. When that power base is removed and stays that way for 3-4 days, then they can be all ferreted out. No question. Number two, the revaluation and restructuring of the financial system is such that they will no longer have any capability of making a comeback. Everything that is zeroed out will be RV'd or revalued. Now, dinars are fine if that's the way you want to go. I don't guarantee any kind of exchange rate. All I'll say is that everything gets revalued basically pretty much at the same time. It's going to be a worldwide event. People are not aware of this, but that's basically what most of this is about. You've got extensive central banking in Europe, United States. They're in Canada, Mexico, and a lot of countries. So consequently, what you have to do, you're going to have to take those banks out of positions, out of commission. They're going to have to be zeroed out or put into bankruptcy. What happens at that point is that this then allows the freedom of the people to decide what form of banking system they want. At the same time, the people in charge of the collateral accounts will be making suggestions of a general direction to go that best fits everybody's needs and will cause a quicker time of revaluation. In other words, you're going to have money that's going to be good for butt wipe, wallpaper, etc. But if you hold on to it, it will be revalued, so long as it is not the brand new currency. At the time of that RV, the full revaluation will take place after ours, slightly, and it will take place in segments across the planet. The full RV will include all currencies, so it doesn't much matter what you got too much. Now, during the period of time where you're going to have about 2 weeks of dead space, I suggest everybody get a hold of as much junk silver, which is the 64 and older silver coinage, and use that for, buying what you need at the store, that sort of thing. It's just a carry-through or carry-over method. So you'll get in a couple of weeks maybe, give or take. During that period, you're going to be using silver coin. People have to weigh it to make sure what it is or how much it weighs. They give you about 85% whatever the spot price on silver is. And then you got, you might be able to take, 50 cents, maybe $1 worth of silver dimes and pay your whole week's grocery bill. So there's a lot of things that goes into this. Now, that is a very general overview, but it is fairly accurate. Okay?
Is the dollar going to be revalued, obviously, as part of that?
All currencies.
Yeah.
All currencies. So whether we have dinar or dollars, it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
Yeah, what you want to do is understand what Drake is saying is that there will be a relatively short period of time where currency, as we know it, will be virtually useless. It's hard to understand because there's a difference between money and currency. So the only way to really protect against that is to have something of intrinsic value, such as metals, that can be, that can be used as a common medium of exchange. And traditionally, it's silver, gold, that sort of thing. Other countries might be something different.
The central banks control the currency of 192 countries today. That's more than the Federal Reserve is involved in more than just the United States.
Well, it's an interlocking.
They're all going to be
shut down. It's an interlocking system. Yeah, it's an interlocking system because, well, but you got to remember that these central banks, most of them are privately owned. The Federal Reserve is owned by half a dozen big bankers. The governments will shut them down in order to reset the system. I would not want to be a big banker when they do that because they're going to probably kick them out.
So the banking reset and the money reset and the fiat money reset all happens at the same time as the arrests are announced. Is that correct?
Ideally. You're in a similar location of timing, yes, but not exactly the same time necessarily.
The interesting aspect of this, the question mark, if you will, is that with worldwide internet capability, I mean, you can send a message from the middle of the United States to the middle of China, and it takes, I don't know, something like 0.3 of a second or some silly thing like that. It's possible that some people will try to play games with that, get a jump on it, so to speak. I don't know. I've read some things on this, and I'm going, I don't know that I buy into that. So.
The reason I have some ideas of what's going on is because I'm dealing directly with a man called Neil Keenan, who happens to be the principal legal lawful holder of the access to all of the collateral accounts.
Mm-hmm.
And he has been explaining a combination of things and educating me, along with several other people, as to basically what is looking at in terms of what's going to transpire and how they want to structure it so that it is fair to everybody, not just a few. And you got to get rid of the crooks, so you take their business away from them, called central banking, which has been illegal anyway. And then not only do they have to repay the collateral accounts, they owe us money too, each and every last one of us. So they're screwed.
Yeah.
I've been listening to I've been listening to all.
Guys, you guys have a question from the chat room regarding the mass arrests and all, and basically, you know, how are we supposed to deal with the judges and the cops and so on and so forth? I mean, is that something the militia handles? How does that work?
When dealing with what?
Yeah, it depends. It depends on whether or not they're dirty. If they're clean, you go in there and back them. If they're dirty, and I mean any kind of something that is funny, you question them on it, and if they don't have a valid answer, that means they've been bought and sold by somebody. A guy that's making 50, 60 grand a year can't afford $200,000 race cars. I'm sorry, it don't fit. So, you know, there's some kind of squirrely thingy in the wood pile. The same is true in terms of favoritism, where a business always gets its way. Why is that? I mean, you know, you have to look at all the little aspects locally, because, like I said, it's not going to come down much. If it comes to the governor level, I'll be surprised. It may, but it ain't going to come down to your county. They're not going to come into a little town and say, that mayor, he's a bad guy. That ain't happening. That's going to be our part. This is where militias, this is where backing local law enforcement, this is where knowing what your government is supposed to look like, how it's structured and the way it's supposed to work comes in. And that basically is the answer to that.
Okay.
Well, if you don't mind me jumping in there just to address a certain part of your answer, when you bring up the militia inside that area, what you also have to understand is you've got to throw out what you see on TV as what the militia is. The militia is not 24/7 in the woods training for a war. We're not the soldiers. We're citizens, guys. So
First and foremost.
I want to clarify that real quick, just the way that you answered that using that term. That term's got a bad name right now, and, I mean, we're doing everything we can to change it, but as long as you're using that term, we have to clarify and make sure that that's not the image that the folks that we're talking to are seeing, because that's not it at all.
Exactly. I agree.
If you're lucky, 4 times a year, if you're lucky?
Well,
and I mean,
the thing you got to look at is that there are local citizens who know what's going on and are willing to carry responsibility, and people will follow that person. And you get 2 or 3 good people around someone of that nature, you then have your new city council. You have your new mayor. You have those people that need to be replaced, removed, simply under the auspices that they violated their oath of service, the public trust. You take them to jail. When you finally get a sheriff in that's good, if you don't already have one, then the matter can be settled after you find a decent judge. I mean, everybody thinks this is going to happen all at once, and yeah, there are some things that are going to happen, but it's going to take some time to get this mess fixed. This ain't going to be an overnighty.
Oh, yeah.
Well, not only that, but there's another aspect that we can apply here, and it sounds terrible because this particular profession, as with militias, has a really bad reputation, justly deserved, and that's public relations. And I'm not suggesting that anybody go hire a public relations firm, but if you think about what public relations is, it's simply, first and foremost, it's letting people know who you are, what you do, how, what advantage you have to the community in this case and so forth. And the neat thing about good public relations, it doesn't cost anything or a minimal amount. All it has to be is done. Get to know people. Begin to get the word out. The best people you can get to know are not only the sheriff, politicians, good ones, honest ones, drop the dishonest and bad ones like a hot potato, but get to know media people. And the media people, in my mind, and I think in the mind of a lot of militia members, it's a bad word. Like militia is a bad word. Media, people say media, reporters, and newspapers. But there are good ones out there, and that's where you don't do it by telling them anything. You don't. It's easy to write a press release and say, okay, we're for this and this and this and this. That's not nearly as effective as going out, doing good work in the community, and making sure that the media picks up on that and reports it. That is a feature story in a newspaper or on on the news, nightly news or whatever, is of a militia or a group, and don't even call yourself a militia if you don't want, is worth its weight in gold because people see and believe what they read and see and so forth on the media. That's the way to do it. In other words, you let your actions speak louder than your words. It's the best public relations that we can have. And that's where it's important to get people together and to move on stuff, do things, do charitable things. I have a whole presentation tomorrow almost a huge presentation, but a little thing I want to do tomorrow night on the show that we're going to be on tomorrow night about public relations and what it really is and what it can be and how virtually anyone can do it. And that's just one leg of the stool, so to speak, but it's a very important one. It works well to begin to change the impression, the conception that people have of what militia truly is.
So, it's called professionalism.
Exactly,
yep.
And that's what we're doing tomorrow night.
Yes,
I got a post on my website about that.
I've seen that, Drake.
Appreciate it.
Hey, I'm trying to help. That's basically what this is all about. I want to see the people in general. I mean, a majority of them, not necessarily everybody, because somebody's got to be working somewhere, but as many as possible get involved to such an extent that it is available to address these problems. In part, maybe even before a big sweep is made. In part, maybe there's somebody who knows things that other people don't, and nobody's been listening to them. And they don't talk about it much because nobody cared. And then all of a sudden you find out, hey, he knows everything there is to know about everybody. Cool. What do you know about this and that? And, all of a sudden you become a walking library. And believe me, there is usually one person, especially in small towns, that's like that. And they could be the nose of the neighborhood or however you want to look at that. But they can be invaluable. I saw them do such and such, and there you go. So it goes back to the localization. It goes back to community support, help, self-help, getting off the couch, asking questions, talking to people. It's real simple.
Yeah, that community out there is full of professionals, professional people, no matter what they do. They're hardworking men and women, and if we become as militia members the same thing, then we will be much more readily accepted.
Oh, yes.
whether we use it a local charity or a church group, or it doesn't make any difference. If we become professional and get rid of this crazy, wild-eyed, guns blazing from both hands picture that people have, we will be able to get things done then.
Awesome. Hey guys, you guys still have a couple more callers in the queue, and you're down to 30 minutes. So
bring them callers in.
Yep, let's go ahead and get them in. We're going to go ahead now and move to area code 678. That would be Mark.
Hello.
Hi, Mark.
Hello, Mark.
Hey, God bless you, sir. Bless all of you. Excuse me. One thing I'd like to clear up. There's a difference between good religion, which means being bound back to the Creator. Good religion is about self-control. Bad religion is where one person or group tries to control other people.
Yep.
I want to make that distinction. One thing I think that might be helpful for PR in terms of explaining to people, out in the country it's common to have volunteer fire departments that help out put out fires. Now, if you have somebody with a volunteer fire department comes out and basically keeps your house from burning down, you're not hostile to them, you're grateful. Well, the militia is kind of like a voluntary police force in the sense that the militia is there to secure law and order. So there's the lawful militia, which stands with law enforcement as long as there really are law enforcement, and we're opposed to law enforcement when there are a bunch of goon squad idiots that think, like Judge Dredd, I am the law. We're vitally important about the difference, because I've heard some people talk about, well, just forget due process, let's just hang these people. I think what we need to be clear is a right is not something you earn or deserve. It is an endowment of the Creator, and if you earned it or deserved it, it's not a right. And so these people, they need to have their crimes exposed. And one thing, for those that have been around with rap for a while, you may remember Dr. Livingston. He had a website where he was basically proposing really nasty ways of killing tyrants, and that caused no small disturbance some time ago. So one thought that occurred to me is, what if we could extradite the most heinous of these mass murderers to other countries that are not so constrained? There would be nothing unconstitutional about saying, here, you can have them. Only one thing. We want high definition, 1080p, the stereoscopic vision so we can see it in 3D. We want to see what you're going to do to them, for the record, just as a deterrent for future generations. Does that sound reasonable?
Not really.
Oh, well, you don't think we can extradite them knowing that something nasty is going to happen to them?
Well, Jake already answered that. All right, thank you, Mark.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to have to move on. Okay. Our next caller is Ken from area code 248.
Drake, welcome to the great state of Michigan.
Good to be here.
On a previous call, you mentioned that it was preferable to avoid FDIC-insured banks. And I was wondering if you could elaborate on that, if you're referring to credit unions, etc. I mean, I'm a small business owner, so there's always money flying back and forth. What would you recommend, and what was your reference to the FDIC?
Well, the FDIC is broke, first of all.
True.
It's a Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, and they've been running in the red for quite some time due to all these things dealing with foreclosures and people going broke on account of them. So FDIC, the idea is fine in some ways, but it came about as a stimulus program from the Great Depression, so that people who had money in the bank, when the money went down in value, they didn't lose everything. So basically, it doesn't mean a whole lot. Now, what you got to remember is that it depends upon the tie, and by that I mean the relationship between whatever financial institution you're using, be that small banks, credit unions, or whatever, in relation to the Federal Reserve. If they are not a part of, in other words, wholly owned subsidiary of a Federal Reserve Bank totally controlled, then they very probably will be a part of the new banking system. In other words, you're going to take down the Federal Reserve and go to the Treasury like it's supposed to be in the beginning, and that's basically where that's at.
Is there an advantage to moving money from one bank to another?
Not really, unless you know for a fact that one is clean, and that's not easy to do, and I doubt that an individual could do that.
No, none of them are clean. Well, at least the big ones. I got the impression that you were suggesting that a non-FDIC insured bank was somehow preferred from a previous call.
Well, this is Firehawk. A couple of things. There are local banks. I mean local banks that will have to follow state banking regulations and that sort of thing, and by extension some federal banking regulations. But they're not members of the Federal Reserve System. They tend to be basically isolated, rural banks usually, and that sort of thing. They have fewer what I would call federal entanglements, which when the central banks are finally eliminated, which we can hope is, it needs to happen sooner than later, they probably will not be nearly as affected. The other thing is, and I heard of one, where was it? I think it was Greece, actually. They had a very short, what's called a bank holiday. That's a euphemistic term for shutting down the bank by proclamation, where the government literally shuts down the bank so that they will not experience a bank run. Is usually the reason they do it. The really nasty thing for both individuals and small businesses is, depending on the extent of it, if they call a bank holiday, for instance, we'll say we're going to have a bank holiday for 10 days or 2 weeks, which is actually quite a long time for a bank holiday. That usually means the banks are going to shut down. The ATMs won't work. You can't get your money in. You can't put your money in. You can't get your money out. It is a lock on the system. The solution to that, and I think I would advise anyone to do this, is to have at least 1 month's worth of cash for whatever your situation is, so that you can, in fact, continue to buy groceries or stock if you're a business or whatever. You just end up having to pay cash for it. So that's the other thing you got to take into consideration is the so-called bank holiday. If you're not ready for it, that can really slap you upside the head pretty badly.
Well, to that end, we've looked at creating what you might call a risk management self-insured account for small businesses, where a small business could potentially put money into commodities, gold and silver, to keep their business running for a period of time. The only problem is this hasn't been documented. It's like creating a new financial instrument, such as, who created credit default swaps. But I'm not sure if anybody's ever heard of this concept of small businesses actually investing, putting money into gold and silver for such an eventuality as an insurance policy.
That's all well and good except for one thing. When I say the banks are going to be closed for 3 to 5 days, I mean all of them, even the ones that are good. Yep. And you're going to have I'll say it again, one of the easiest commodities in terms of some kind of precious metal is silver. The problem with gold is that there's a lot more of it than people think. It's not as rare a commodity as the price would indicate. The rarer of the two metals is silver. It is being used industrially for a variety of reasons, whereas gold cannot. Now, in terms of the holdings of small businesses, if you got your money, you got your assets, whatever they may be, in a bank, and they lock the doors, how you going to get it? That's exactly the question that you've got to deal with. Now, here's the other part. The other part is simply that this is a very highly structured and very tight schedule. The schedule is going to be when the central banking goes down, you're going to have 3 to 5 days of dead space, or zero. It's going to take an additional 2 to 3 days for the RV to take full effect. So you've got a period there of about 2 weeks, and that's sort of a minimal sort of thing. If possible, depending on the type of business, lay up a little extra supplies. That would be a commodity that you know you can sell, and what you need to do is have a postal scale so you can tell how much silver is in a coin or how much silver somebody's got in an ingot, etc., so that you can value it according to spot. This way you don't cheat yourself, you don't cheat them, you just treat it like money, basically. So these preventative measures are a part of what everybody's going to need to do. Now, they will be explained at certain points. People that don't have this currency or they need to have assistance with things, there may be a credit system implemented. This is still being talked about, and the structure is not solid or permanent yet, whereby somebody can get something that they need, such as a lumber company or the local 7-Eleven or whatever, on proceeds they know they're going to have. That would be a very, very, very short-term item. You're talking 3, maybe 4 weeks. Then whatever that credit is has to be repaid. So these are some of the things that people are not aware of that I've been being schooled in, for the very reason that it's already been decided that I'm going to be one of the people to make the announcements as to the RV. So there's going to be a group of us. So you can expect some things to come out of that probably will be not only enlightening but shocking to some, but nevertheless, it'll be real. So these are the realities that you have to look at.
I think we're stocking up appropriate.
A month is okay if you can do that. Most people can't do a month.
We're looking at we're looking at 6 months, but I'm also looking at my employees and the business. And what we've already done is stocked up on silver based on your advice, because we can pay our employees in that. We can, especially in Michigan, strangely enough, there's a lot of Middle Eastern-owned gas stations, and they will take 2 silver coins and go fill it up and go, okay. They're used to that type of transaction. So we're gearing up for that, and any other advice you have may be very well appreciated, and I'm just honored to speak with you, gentlemen. I don't have any other questions.
I got one suggestion.
Go ahead.
I got one suggestion. Put that on a website somewhere so other people can hear about it.
Yeah, if you would,
share
it with us, send us a link to your website, and we'll post it up on ours.
Well, actually, what we're trying to do is take it to the next level where a small business can actually invest in commodities into a self-insurance account. Every accountant I've ever talked to says they've never heard to it. And I keep telling them, no, think like Jamie Dimon's accountant. What would Jamie Dimon's accountant do? He'd find a way, and but you can take pre-tax money and turn it into assets and hold on to them for the employees and as a hedge against financial issues.
Exactly.
So
and what we would like to do is we would like you to send us your ideas so that we can do a cooperative in terms of putting it on our website so people will look at it, because we do get a lot of traffic. And if you do that, I will make sure to send it out internationally so that other countries can start doing the same thing.
I'll get that to you.
It's worldwide. So, people need to be aware.
Yeah, and it's small businesses like us. I mean, we're looking out for our people. I mean, what am I going to do when I can't pay them? We're prepared already to pay them in gold or silver, a tenth of an ounce, whatever it may be, so that they can go around and keep going, get gas, get food, survive the temporary issues. And we're looking forward to the real thing. And, gentlemen, I can't thank you enough. The utmost respect for you, and thank you for your time.
Thank you for calling in.
Thank you for calling.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Guys, we got one more caller in the queue, and you've got just about 13, 14 minutes left. Our next caller is Jesse from area code 541. Jesse, you are open.
Thank you, and good evening from East Oregon. Hello, everybody.
Hi, Jesse.
My question has probably already been answered, but I'm going to ask again. My husband passed away last month, and my son and I are getting survivor's benefits from Social Security. When all this stuff goes down, my question to you is, are we going to be able to receive our benefits, or are they also going to be seized and my son and I be completely screwed?
Benefits of that nature, things of that sort, are to be taken care of, as I understand it, through a complex distribution system where you'll get food, the rent won't be due, your utilities will be maintained, etc. Now, just because something is stopped does not necessarily mean that it does not have value and is accruing. So at the end of the 2-week period, you'll get an extra 2 weeks or the portion that you missed of the new valuation, as I understand it. Okay?
And I think also that the same thing that for the previous caller may well apply to you. And I'll tell you, Jesse, I'm in the same boat personally. My income is both disability and veterans benefits, and that's it. So this is one of the reasons that I'm personally, every month I take out a bit of cash, and I don't put it in the mattress, but I tuck it away because if that happens, any form of interruption, then I've got enough to carry me through. So I probably run into, of course, if you've got dollars, who knows what, that will be suspended and so forth. So again, silver coins or whatever. People pick on silver because it's really quite affordable compared to such as gold. I mean, gold, last time I checked the gold chart, it was like $1,550 or something. Well, that's an awful lot of money. Silver is, what, I think it's about $23, $24, something like that, per ounce. So, it's all a matter of preparation. It's kind of like the squirrel in wintertime.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it. There was another question I had for you, but that was the big one right there, was the whole Social Security thing. So if I take my money out of my account, because it's automatically put in, so if I take my money out of mine and my son's account and, stick it in my husband's safe or something like that, I mean, I don't know where around LeGrand I can go ahead and pick up any silver, but, if I do that, will at least he and I be okay? I mean, I don't know. I'm just curious.
I would think so. Drake, I mean, maybe you're better. You would be better to answer that because I'm not sure what the value of currency is going to be.
Well, currency is going to go to zero for a period of time, about 2 weeks. My suggestion is that you take enough money, whatever your cash expenditure would be, in other words, fuel, groceries, for a 2-week period, and there are places that you can go to purchase silver. Yeah, it might cost you a tank of gas to get there, but it would be much better to be able to take care of yourself and maintain what independence you do have rather than being in the lurch. It may take a day or two for people to get to everybody. Now, this is a part I have mentioned the fact that the military is going to be extraordinarily busy. Now you understand how community can supplement the military. I mean, I might have a full tank of gas and the military's running low, and they haven't sent a truck to fill the local gas stations, so they can't get any fuel. Put it on mine. I'll take it to the people. Give me the addresses. We'll go find them. That sort of thing. This is how this works. Everybody puts in a little bit, and everybody comes out smelling like a rose. As I said, figure a 2-week period is to forget the utilities, forget the house payment, and the cable and all this other stuff for a 2-week period. Forget everything except what you directly need to spend your money on. That would be food and fuel probably. And I think you probably will be fine. You shouldn't have too many problems at all. Everybody that I know of, and quite honestly, I mean, I put this out to everybody, get you a postal scale so that you can tell how many ounces you got, know what you're doing in terms of having a solar calculator handy or whatever so that you can figure the percentage, and then whatever the spot is would be the valuation of that particular coin or amount of silver. And this, quite honestly, silver is not going to fluctuate a whole lot. Gold may. It already has to an extent, so silver. But silver has maintained its value because of its capability of diversity of usage in comparison to gold. And so, you know, this is why I recommend the silver rather over the gold. And like I say, you know, 2 weeks, you should be fine. Okay?
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate it a whole lot.
Welcome.
Okay, guys, we are just about out of time. I don't know who this caller is. They have not been identified yet, but we'll go ahead and take one more and then let you guys wrap it up. That will be caller from area code 813. Area code 813, can you hear us?
Hi, this is Dolores.
Hi,
Dolores. And I've got a question for Drake. I came across this blog sent by Peter, a member of the Palladian 500, an affiliate of the Palladian Council of Light. And the recommendation that he is giving here is to stop paying your monthly bills in the month of June. Just stop all across the globe, worldwide. Shut down the banks. Stop funding their control over you. And what he is recommending, if you're going to continue to pay your monthly bills, you're keeping the elite in control. And my question is, if you stop making your monthly payments on your credit cards, on your bills, and if only 1% of the population would do that, how would it stop the process to begin with? And my question is actually, where is the integrity of that? Not paying your bills. Because he is suggesting that it would put them, the banks, out of business if you would stop paying them.
Can I make an observation?
Yes.
I would be willing to bet right now that more than 1% of the people in this country right now aren't paying their bills or the bulk of their bills for an entire month because they simply can't afford it. They're out of their home. They're having trouble feeding their children. They're taking food stamps or whatever. The 1%, as far as destroying the central banking system and the feds and I don't know. I don't think that 1% would do that. If 50% did it, it would be chaos, because you got to understand that a currency system, money system is like a machine. Every bit, piece, part, and so forth is pretty much reliant on every other part. Some parts are bigger and have more control, but we're all part of this very intricate system. If you suddenly have, we'll say, a quarter of that system just decide not to work anymore, the whole thing is going to collapse to the detriment of everybody, not just the banks. That would be catastrophic if people actually did that, if they were capable of doing that. It's been figured that, was it 10% of the taxpayers, if they refuse to pay their taxes, that it would literally, it would end the government and it would end it tomorrow. Can we afford that? No. We might not like the government, depending on how you feel about it, but nobody in their right mind blows out all four tires at once. So, what do you think, Drake?
Well, the thing of it is, we don't know if there's going to be 51% of people who will just stop making their monthly payments. But I guess the question is, for those, I understand everything that you just said, and I know it's more than 1%, but it was just a figure percentage. Anyway,
right.
The people, like all yourselves, for instance, you're paying your monthly bills, and for those who are able to do that, if they stop doing it, where is the integrity? I mean, I don't know where to draw the line.
Ray, let Drake jump in there on this one, because I'm sure he's going to make a whole lot of sense on this.
Okay, it's pretty simple. The federal banking system, or central banking system, Fed, as we know it, is at the point of being taken down. Okay,
right,
that's not only here, but also Europe. This includes the International Monetary Fund, the Bank of International Settlements, the Crown Bank in England, the money laundering system they have in New York, and others. Now, what happens when those are taken down are two things. Number one, the central banking system and associates are closed, and by that I mean permanently. A lot of the smaller banks, people who are not too tied up with the Fed, are going to survive and survive just fine, but they're going to be closed for a period of about 2 weeks. The period of time it takes to close, the 3 or 4 days that it takes for this thing to sit at zero, and the 3 or 4 days it takes to RV, or revalue, an economy. Now, basically what you're looking at is a period of 2 weeks, and you're on your own pretty much. So you need a 2-week supply of capable cash, and I recommend silver, junk silver as they call it, which is coinage, 1964 and before. It contains like 85–90% silver. Based on that, you go by the weight, and a couple of 3–4 quarters, and you got groceries for 2 weeks. 2 or 3 quarters, and it ought to fill a gas tank. So you're not looking at an extraordinary hardship in those areas. The problem everybody's looking at is that, what do you do with the money? Well, just hold on to it, because if it's printed before a certain date, it's going to be revalued, meaning that it for a temporary time until it can be replaced with a true treasury note, or can be designated as a treasury note, you're not going to have any cash that's spendable or usable. It's just that simple. It's not complicated in terms of, ooh, I got money in the bank. Leave it in there. The small depositors are going to be taken care of.
Keep the money in the bank, is that what you're saying?
Yes. The small depositors, the people such as you and I, who don't have a lot of money, we're going to be taken care of. These things will be RV'd or revalued so that nobody is at a loss. Now, you're going to gain, and the reason you're going to gain is you're going from a debt instrument to an equity instrument. That's a huge difference. Even though all currency is a debt issuance or certificate of value, the basis of this is that you will have something behind the money other than a promise. So, not to worry. Don't use your money in the stove, to heat the house and that sort of thing. It will be revalued. or exchanged. So small depositors, small businesses, small banks, people who are not the cabal will be taken care of. This is the idea of the humanitarian side of the collateral accounts. It is to see to the needs of the people, first of all. Then secondly, see to the extemporaneous needs, such as bridges and public works and all this stuff. If you got problems, they'll be seen to. It's going to take time, but they will be seen to. And that's your basic answer.
Drake, you're out of time, hon. We are not going to be able to take any more callers. Got to close it out. You got about maybe 20 seconds.
Well, folks, we appreciate y'all tuning in this week to Community with the Militia, with Minuteman, Drake, Firehawk, and EQ, or Equalizer, as we know him. And, well, we'll see y'all, I guess, throughout the week on different shows. And, again, back here this coming Monday. Quick note, Pots and Pans, folks, Pots and Pans, Thursday at 4 o'clock. We're going to be getting that message out. So let the Pots and Pans terrorism begin. Y'all have a good evening, and y'all take care of one another. Be good enough to one another. And remember, I'll say this again. Join a militia out of love, folks, not hate. This ain't about hate. This is about love for your freedom, your family, your nation, and everything else. And it's going to take a whole lot of love to see this thing through. So with that, I'm going to close out. I thank my guests for joining me tonight. And
thank you.
Safe and live free.